what's next for Amir Khan?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I talked to him about 3 weeks ago, but he was in Malaysia, I think. So he usually fights in December. I haven't heard any names or, what's up. I have no idea, Garrett.
You mean you're not in contact with him 4 times a day?
No.
What do you make it?
Do you think that he needs to stop, like you said, he's away a lot, he goes to every opening, he's in a public eye a lot. Do you think he needs to cut some of that out and concentrate?
Well, from a coach's perspective, of course. I mean, if you're serious about your craft, if you're serious about being, leaving your mark in the sport and being great, there are plenty of examples ahead of you that lets you know that you have to focus on your craft. If that's your focus, then it's just a matter of time before it backfires on you. There's only so much I can do for you, you see, because when a fighter has success early, when he's a millionaire, I don't know, was he a millionaire before he threw his first punch? Pro punch?
No, he didn't sign for over $1 million quid. Frank Warren when he joined him.
Yeah, but he had money.
Big.
Yeah,
big.
Right.
He's been rich since he was 17.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
It's a different kind of money he's got, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's right there. That's could be a curse if the people that you depend on the most and the people who are in your lives that have the influence of your life, if they have to be able to keep you grounded, you see. And if they can't keep you grounded, then, these types of things, can come up. I often told him he should be undefeated, but it's up to him.
You mentioned a little while ago that you wanted him to be with you through the year longer than he had been initially. You got him for 6 months of the year at the moment.
Well, when he had the time off that time, when he took a year off, we were able to put quite a bit of time together. And I think that's why you started seeing some of the changes in him, And also at that time, coming off the Garcia fight, I would think that he was more driven, more focused, but after you put 5 wins in a row together, and your name is once again being mentioned, in big fights and stuff, sometimes you can have a mental letdown.
But you only together 4 months of the year at the moment. 2 camps for 8 months.
Well, usually does a 10 to 12 week camp. 6 months out of the year, that was better than what he was doing,
But Virgil, who would you want in the fight? I mean, Danny Garcia rematch, you have Kell Brook and England's fighting, Diego Chavez, do you want the winner of that? You have, what's his name, Sean Porter. I mean, there's so many names that are attractive fights.
Well, if he wants to be great, then he needs to consider fighting all these guys. I think in Amir's case, when there's a little fear on the table and danger exists, I think I got a better fighter. I think he focuses more because he knows that one more knockout, that's it.
A lot of people want to see him and Pacquiao fight. I've heard it at a lot of different gyms and trainings. Would you like that if it happened?
I mean, I don't pick his fights. I go along with him. My personal opinion is he don't need Manny Pacquiao. What does he need Manny Pacquiao for? I mean,
does Kell Brook appeal to you as a fighter?
Well, I would hope. I would hope at some point that they both fight each other. I mean, I know it's good for Great Britain. It would be good for him. And good for boxing, so yeah, I think.
Does a rematch with that?
I've never pushed him to take the fight because it's obvious there's some things going on between them that happened long before I came on the scene. So, the little bits and pieces that I get from, you disrespected me, or you're not known, or who was winning the sparring sessions when they were amateurs, and Brooks saying what he says, and I mean, it's all the ingredients for a big fight is certainly there, you see. So at what point they make the fight, I'm sure both continue to fight, that the fight's going to happen.
ready for it. That's the thing. I mean, it's a mystery to us. I know you're not his advisor, you're his trainer, so you're not making no decisions. Obviously, you are his trainer, you're the man shaping the second period of his career, in terms of his skill set. But it's a mystery that he won't take this big fight when he's clearly not going to get a Mayweather.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for looking at it like that, but it doesn't frustrate me because, look, I got a young heavyweight, man, that 6'3.5", 228, amateur that looks like a light heavyweight, and I sent him up to the U.S. Championships, and he walked right through the whole tournament. So, my focus is on who's there. I have a Russian kid, he's down here training now. His television debut will be October, I want to say 13th or 14th. My focus is who's in the gym. Now, of course, if I had complete say-so and control over, number one, I know he respects me. Number two, the dynamics of Amir and what they do is out of my hand and over my head, okay? If I had to assess it as a coach, I think he's letting his career, let me put it this way. I think that if he was, here, like he's supposed to be, even if he doesn't live here, but would come and spend time, in between fights, like, he travels and everything else, that he would be twice as good now as he was then. And that's what, I visualized from him. That's what made me, that's why I agreed to train him, because that's how he was talking. You see, he wanted to be the best, and he said he was willing to make the sacrifice. He asked me, did I have time for him because of Andre Ward? And I says, I don't have a number one. Whoever has to fight, that's who's the priority. So, but, over a period of time, it's a lot going on. And, my job is to be honest with him, which I am. Very honest with him. I'm not, I don't need to eat on a fighter. And simply put, it's like I told him, when you have the talent that you have, I'm not going to bite my tongue, or I'm not going to make any concessions when you have this kind of talent. You should be striving to be the best that ever did it. And if that's too much for you, go get another coach. You see? So, but
do you straight talk to him in that way? What's his reaction?
Ask him.
Does he just sit there as if you're the headmaster lecturing?
Ask him. He'll tell you.
Sorry?
Ask him. He'll tell you. Yeah. I mean, but how can anybody be negative against someone who says, I'm not going to overlook any, half-ass effort. I'm not going to overlook this, I'm not going to overlook that, you see. How can anybody be upset with that? Because first they have to be true to themselves. But, at some point, whether it be even in the Algeria fight, I told him, I said, I don't even remember if I probably was, but in that fight, I warned him. I said, this is going to be a tough fight, my man, and if you get caught off listening to other people that have never been in this business tell you and stroking you and everything like that, you're going to have a tough fight. And I said, the reason why is Provodnikov sweated that kid down to 140. Pacquiao sweated him to 143. He's a welterweight with you, and he's going to be a middleweight the next night. I told him all that week in New York, just from observing Algeria. I'm the type that at press conference and stuff, I'll sit back and look at the other fighter when he doesn't know I'm looking at him. I told him, I said, his mind is made up that he's going to beat you, and you are going to have to convince him that he cannot win, you see? And you need to focus in on this fight, Well, apparently he didn't, you know, with people over visiting his suite and things like that. I think the baby had a cold. He caught a head cold Wednesday before the fight. Not a light one, a heavy one. So he goes into the fight with a cold. He goes into the fight looking at providing the call for the Pacquiao fight. Also goes into the fight thinking that, you know, if I knock this guy out, you know, I'll make a bigger statement. But when he had the opportunity to knock him out, he had him hurt bad in the 10th round. He didn't even realize he had him hurt bad. You know, he didn't even realize that the guy was tired and was pretty much done, you know. Algieri started fading after the 7th, 8th round. I know a lot of people gave Jackson credit for that, but really it was a fight. I don't understand why they fought that kind of fight. You have a man that tall and you got him dipping and ducking down and everything like that. Well, he can only throw one punch at a time in that situation. He says, well, Amir grabbed and hold. Well, I told Amir, if he's ducking and dipping, tie him up, because look, the guy was a black belt in karate, right? I don't know if he broke bricks with his head or boards with his head and anything, and he can make a real simple innocent move and come up and use his head and bam, there you go. So if he does that, tie him up, you know, and don't worry about what everybody else says. So to his credit, his conditioning was superb, so, you know, he closed it.
Well, it was a wide but very convincing victory.
But what I told him was that was one of his better fights to me, because he had to overcome if he wanted to win. He learned something. He had to overcome if he wanted to win. And
I think there's a danger that lives life as a star and not as a fighter.
of course, that's always a
What are we
danger.
seeing there at the moment is what I'm asking.
Well, you know, as long as they're winning, you can't.
Yeah. Ask you to give me that headline.
Yeah, no.
You know, Hunter issue.
Yeah, you know what?
Get your life together.
That's right.
I'm not asking you for that. What I'm asking.
I'm glad you said that, Gary, because a couple times I've said something to you and you put something else on it. You know?
That's rubbish.
No, I'm serious. I'm gonna recall it too.
Which one?
I started to send that debt collector in England. What's his name? To your house.
Which debt collector?
The reality show guy.
The one that's got the.
Yeah, he didn't find me.
You know who I'm talking about?
No, my
He owns a
Rottweiler
gym.
My Rottweiler acted.
Yeah.
On the drive, you know.
But of course. But I mean, the danger exists if he's doing it right. You know, it exists if you're doing it right. So if you're doing it wrong, it doubles it. I don't know what he's doing right now. When I see photos of him, his weight seems to be okay. His muscle tone seems to be okay. And then you never know about a kid who's been fighting from a young age. I always think that kids who've been fighting since they're 9 or 10, they need periods of time off. He's 29, you know. So he's got years ahead of him. But you just can't talk about it. You have to be about it. But I have no control over the other forces that are in his life. Or, you know, you hear people say, well, you know, other people come and talk, but I can't entertain that, you know, it's the family that pushes him and, you know, and trying to secure their future at his expense. And, you know, I don't know what they did before he fought. Oh, man, did you know they were cab drivers and this and that and that and the other? I don't know nothing about that.